reset that because that way, okay, down at the bottom, see where it says record, you can stop recording.
All right, let me make this a full screen. Stop.
Right here.
Stop.
This is Andrew's last week at Albemarle County. So we're all saying goodbye and thanks to Andrew. We'll miss him. Hey, David. All right, it looks like 7 o'clock, so I think I'll be prompt and get going. Hi, Valerie. Sorry you were covered up. All right. This meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with Emergency Ordinance number 20-A14, an emergency ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster. The committee members who are electronically present at this meeting are Brian Day, David Mitchell, Doug Bates, Joe Four, Costas Albertus, Matthew Slatz, Mike Kunkel, Valerie Long. So far anyway. Sean said he would be late. And let's see. The persons responsible for receiving public comment are the Crozet Community Advisory Committee and the Albemarle County Department of Community Development. The opportunities for the public to access and participate in the electronic meeting are posted on the Albemarle County calendar. And we have Andrew Newpel, Rachel Falkenstein, Andy Reitelbach, Vivian Groschel, sorry, I'm not sure how to say your name, and Carolyn Schaefer, county staff members who are present. And this is also our neighborhood planner, Andrew's last meeting with us. He's already in the process of moving to Houston. And so I just wanted to say thank you for all your work. It's been really great working with you the last few years. And I'm sorry that you won't be able to see us through the rest of the master plan, but I'm happy we had you, and I'm looking forward to working with Rachel too. So good luck, and good luck with the thesis too. He's got a big week right now. All right, so we have a couple presentations, and as always, a lot to get through, and not on the agenda are what we usually have time for items not on the agenda or new business. And so if we have, hopefully at the end, we'll have a minute for a couple people who emailed me and have things to bring up when we get to item number 4. So with that said, I'm going to try to really keep on target here for time. And we'll get right into, I guess, Andy, you're going to introduce. Am I looking at the wrong thing?
Should we move the minutes?
Oh, the minutes, yeah.
So moved.
Thank you.
And thank you, Joe.
Okay, all in favor, I guess, Andrew, how do we usually do this? Do we unmute or just everybody unmutes? And if you had a chance to look over the minutes and you approve the motion to approve them, say aye.
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 Aye. Anybody had no objections? Okay. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, I'm looking at the thing and I was like, it said animal wellness on it still. Yeah, so anyway, I'm gonna go ahead with the Crozet Park presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andy Reitelbach. I am a staff planner with Albemarle County Planning Division, and I will be just giving a brief presentation on an overview of the community meeting tonight, why we're here, what the project is, and then I will turn it over to Scott Collins, who is the applicant for this project, and he will provide details on what he, as the applicant, is proposing for this project. So let me just go over, I'll just do a brief timeline, like I said, an overview of why we're here. So this is the community meeting for a special use permit application that was submitted to the county recently for Claudius Crozet Park. The application number is SP 2020-16. So the purpose of this community meeting is to share information about the proposed project, the development review process, and relevant policies and regulations of the county, to solicit public input on the proposed project. And a summary of this input is included in the staff report that is reviewed by the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. And community meetings are required to be held for all projects that require legislative review, such as special use permits and zoning map amendments. So for a legislative review, just a brief summary of what that is. If a property owner seeks to change the zoning district or develop a use on the uses list in an existing zoning district, approval by the Board of Supervisors is required. And this process is called legislative review. During the entire process of this legislative review, the application is reviewed by a number of people and bodies, including county staff, several divisions, including planning, zoning, engineering, fire rescue, and the Architectural Review Board, as well as other partner agencies such as VDOT, the Albemarle County Service Authority, and the Ravenna Water and Sewer Authority. The application is also reviewed by the Planning Commission, who make a recommendation of either approval or denial on the application to the board, and then the Board of Supervisors reviews the application and makes the final decision as to whether to approve or deny the request for the special use permit or zoning map amendment. So this evening, because the application is a special use permit, I'll briefly go over what that is. A special use permit is an application develop one of the uses listed in the Albemarle County zoning ordinance as a special use under that zoning district. A change in zoning is not proposed, and as it is a special use, the Board of Supervisors can impose certain conditions on that permit to mitigate the impacts of the proposed use. So the location of the site of the project that we're talking about tonight, it is Claudius Crozet Park, which you can see here. It's kind of sandwiched in between Hilltop Street on the north and Park Road on the south, to the east of Crozet Avenue. The applicant's request is to amend an existing special use permit, which is application number SP 1943, in order to replace the existing community center with an enlarged community center that includes a fitness center and a pool expansion, along with additional pedestrian connections and parking spaces. No dwelling units are proposed as part of this project, and the project is on 3 parcels that total 22.806 acres. The existing and proposed zoning, the existing zoning of this property is rural areas in R6 residential. Most of the park property is zoned rural areas, even though it is within the Crozet development area. And then a small portion right beside Indigo Road is zoned as R6 residential. As I mentioned, because this is a special use permit, no change in the zoning district is proposed. And then the permitted uses in the zoning districts include agricultural, forestal, and fishery uses, as well as residential uses. And then permitted uses that require a special use permit in the rural areas in R6 residential zoning districts include things such as community centers and athletic facilities, which are the 2 uses that the applicant is requesting with their application. And then just some other uses that require a special use permit include private schools, veterinary offices, and country stores. Those are just examples. They are not what is being requested with this application. So as I mentioned, the zoning of this property is rural areas and R6 residential, and you can see the 3 parcels that are included in this application. It's the 2 large parcels that are colored white in this diagram, as well as the kind of orange colored parcel that's very narrow between the white parcels and Indigo Road to the north. And then each development area has a master plan, which contains the future land use recommendation for every property. The master plan was approved by the Board of Supervisors, and the current Crozet master plan that we base this off of, I believe, was approved in 2008. And the future land use for this area in the Crozet master plan is green space. And so the recommended uses in green space, residential is not recommended in green space, and non-residential uses include public parks, open space, and environmental features. So this is just a map showing, again, the Claudius Crozet Park property with the green space designation. Green is maybe obvious is the green space, and then yellow and orange are residential uses. And then the red in the very top left is the Barnes Lumberyard, which is kind of a more mixed use designation. So a brief overview of the timeline for this project. Staff review of this proposal is ongoing. Of course, the community meeting is tonight, October the 14th, where we will accept any type of public comment or input. And during the entire staff review, not just tonight, but for several more weeks in the future, if you'd like to email me or call me, you are certainly welcome to do that. My email address is in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. And I know in the letter that was sent out, public comment was requested by next Friday, October the 23rd. However, we are pushing that back until October 30th, so there is an extra week there. The Planning Commission public hearing and the Board of Supervisors public hearing have not been scheduled yet. And if you are interested in finding out when they will be scheduled, you can, like I said, email or call me and I'll put you on a list, and I'd be happy to let you know once those two public hearings are scheduled. So that is the end of my presentation, and I'll turn it over to Scott Collins of Collins Engineering, and he is the representative for the applicant for this project. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. I also just wanted to explain that at the end of Scott's presentation, you can, committee members and attendees can use the raise hand feature to ask questions, and you can also use the chat box, everybody as well. So thanks, Scott. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Allie. Thank you, Andy. Actually, I think Drew Holdsworth is going to start off but with a little presentation before I talk about the SP, and he may need to be moved over from the attendees to the panelists. I'm not sure if Vivian can do that, and we can move Drew over.
Yeah, Carolyn, let me know if that can happen. Otherwise, he can at least be audio, but if he has a screen share or whatever, he might need to be.
I just moved it over to panelists, so he should be in here now.
Great.
Hi, Drew.
Where'd he go?
Uh-oh.
Oh. I'm back on as a panelist. 1 second. Okay, Drew should be back on the panel now to present and speak. There we go.
Hi, everybody. How are you? For those of you that don't know me, I'm Drew Holdsworth. I'm an active Crozet community member, and I want to spend a few minutes just to give a little bit of background on what Scott is about to present. I am a member of the Claudius Crozet Park Board. I joined the board in 2014. And I want to just lay out a few steps that has gone and that has occurred in history over the past 6 years that got us to this evening, which is pretty exciting for us. So in 2014, the Claudius Crozet Park Board did a community-wide survey to survey the community members in terms of what they would like to see occur in Claudius Crozet Park. From the data and the information that we gathered from the community, we came up with a 10-year roadmap on what we were going to do to make the park increase the vitality and make it a more active place. And as part of that, there were 5 projects that were highlighted back in 2014. One was we had recently had the derecho storm, and so we were going to rebuild the pavilion that was damaged in the derecho storm, and that project has been completed. We were going to build a dog park, and that project, we did the fundraising, and that has been completed. We were going to do a parking expansion, and the Claudius Crozet Park worked very closely with the folks and projects at Albemarle County and expanded the parking in the park. That was the third. The fourth project that was identified back in 2014 was to build an amphitheater to bring music back to the park. And that project was moving through the process, and we put it on hold for now due to budgetary reasons. And it's still out there, but it just has been put on hold. And the fifth and final project that was identified was a new recreation and aquatics facility for the park. In 2004, and then again in 2019, the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors had the Albemarle County Parks and Rec Association do a Parks and Rec needs assessment for the entire county. And in both of those reports that were delivered to the Board of Supervisors, a recreational facility in Crozet, and specifically noted in Crozet Park, was identified. Between the community survey and the survey that was done for the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, the Claudius Crozet Park Board has been working towards that effort. And in 2016, we sent out a community-wide survey asking the community what they would like to see in an aquatics and recreational facility for the park. We gathered that comprehensive survey, and our attendant at the time, which was the YMCA, also did a comprehensive member survey in terms of what they would like to see in the park. And we have been in the design review process. And part of that process through the design of the new aquatics and recreation facility allowed us to, as we presented to the county, they requested a special use permit. Although the uses of the park are not changing, it is still a recreation center that we have today and still an aquatic center that we have today. Because the facilities are changing, the first step was to apply for a special use permit. And so we're in that process now, and tonight is the community meeting for that step. I'm going to have Scott Collins, who is our engineer and has done a great job since the very beginning, present his site plan that is under review by county staff at this time. And but I want to give the background that this has been, I guess, a 6 year as of now, 6.5 year process that we're continuing to go through with a lot of community input. So at that, Scott, I'd love for you to take over and present your site plan.
Sounds good. Let me go ahead and share my screen if I can pull this up real quick. And not sharing yet. Let me try that one more time.
We could actually see it, Scott.
Oh, you could? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. I wasn't seeing it from.
Yeah, no worries.
There you go.
Okay. So you can see the PDF now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So this is what the park looks like currently right now, existing conditions. This is what we're proposing to do. We're going to come in, and there's a building right here and a couple of buildings, the bathhouse around the pool facility that are being removed. And then there's some parking right in here that's going to be expanded. But I just want to show existing conditions. This is Park Drive right here. This is the existing pond right there. And then these are the ball fields. So I just kind of want to orientate everybody with this. And let me go to what we're proposing. So this is what we're proposing. The same type of orientation. This is the existing pond that's going to remain. This is Park Drive right here. This is the main entrance into the Crozet Park right now. So we're looking to expand the parking and build onto the existing pool, which is still right here. The existing pool footprint stays the same. We're looking to expand and build a community facility and recreational facility right adjacent to the pool deck that has connection to the pool deck and also has connection into the fitness facility as well from the parking lot and from the walkways here. So we're basically going to improve the parking lot and improve the pedestrian orientation around this area. And then there was an existing drive that went from here up to Hilltop Street up this way right here. So we're going to relocate that drive over onto this side of the pool and expand the parking as well for the pool facility and expand this roadway. And let me go to the next page here. Come down here and have the roadway circle around the pool this way to still have that access to Hilltop Street for the larger events, for an access, for an exit during some of the larger festivals. And the basketball courts that are right here are going to be relocated up to be up in this area in order to maintain the vehicular access through the site, and along with the pedestrian orientation. We've worked hard to tie in these pedestrian trailways that exist through the park right now and enhance them with sidewalks around the parking area and around the pool facility, and make that a better experience by still having ADA connectivity through the site, going north and south through here and still maintaining east and west travelways through here. The other thing we've been really concentrating on is the connections from the park out to the other neighborhoods, especially with a lot of the development already coming in on the east side of the park lately over the last couple of years. We've developed a connection from the park over to those developments to increase the pedestrian bicycle connections to the park from the east, from the neighborhoods, because overall the Crozet Park is really centrally located. If you look at the maps that Andy was showing, really centrally located within the heart of the Crozet community. And really by enhancing and maintaining the pedestrian and bicycle connectivity points, we really look at it focusing on trying to make that connection and that experience better, and try to focus on getting more people to bike and walk to the park and rely more on, and not rely so much on the vehicular connections to the park, but more of a pedestrian connectivity. And I know there's a couple of sidewalk projects that are already underway or about to be underway with the connection from the west over from Jarman's Gap up Hilltop Street over to the park as well. So along with some of those improvements, it's really sort of opening up a great connectivity for pedestrians and bicycles to this facility. And now with upgrading the overall recreational facility for the park, it really starts to create a cool centralized location for activity, for recreational purposes. And then you still have all the rest of the park around this area, the fields and the playgrounds that are all open, remain open for community entertainment and play and access. So really sort of excited about the opportunities of this project and what it brings, and really here to sort of answer any questions that people might have about the project as well.
All right, thanks, Scott. Will the presentation, this PDF and Andy's presentation, be available for download, Andrew?
See, some of these documents for the site plan should be available through Laserfish. I think the link to the documents might have been in the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Yeah, it was, and I think this page was in there.
Yeah, and we can get Andy's presentation shared as well.
Yeah. All right, does anybody have questions?
I'm still seeing the PDF. Is it possible to see the members of the group?
Yeah, maybe we can stop sharing
There we
it.
go. Good. Okay, so my hand is up.
Go ahead,
As
Sandy.
usual. Yeah, I had a couple of questions. First of all, this idea that we're going to enhance the sidewalks and the bike paths, where exactly are these new sidewalks going to be? And is Hilltop by any chance getting a sidewalk? Drew? You got to unmute, sir.
So, you know, I'm a member of Claudius Crozet Park Board, and I'm certainly a developer in town, as most of you are aware. But, you know, so in every project that is developed in Crozet, I'll share, there's a close link to the Trails crew, the Trails team at Albemarle County. And so the trail system is being built out in real time. But I am completely unaware of sidewalks on Hilltop Street in the plan. But you know that's probably a question for the projects team at Albemarle County.
And you also mentioned bikes. I mean, I don't see bikes using that trail. That's really not going to work most of the time. I mean, it's fairly muddy. It's not really designed for traffic. It's designed for, you know, small numbers of people to walk the path. So I would hope that we get on this. If we're going to make this great new park that you've designed, I want people to be able to get there safely. And I feel like that connection is still not in existence. My second concern is the amount of construction traffic that's going to come in off Hilltop. We've already had a mini experience with our 30 whatever new townhomes that are going in. It's extraordinarily noisy. We attempted to sit out on our porch one day and conversation was out of the question because the trucks make so much noise coming in. So I'd like you to look at the very least at considering bringing some of that traffic in off Park, or sharing, you know, the burden of construction inconvenience that I anticipate for a neighborhood that's already underserved with ways to get out to the rest of the world. I mean, we really have no choice but to take Hilltop to Tabor, to High Street to Tabor. And if this is going to be a big construction project, we really need to think about how the existing residents will be protected. And finally, I don't know how much bigger the footprint will be, Drew. Can you say how much open space will be lost with the new construction, or did you calculate that at all?
So the new facility is 40,000 square feet on 2 floors, plus the additional pool. And so, you know, if you look at 20,000 square feet per floor, that is roughly 1/2 of an acre out of the 22 acres.
Okay.
But some of that space right now, we're going to be getting rid of the pump room and the bathroom facilities that are currently on the outdoor park.
Yeah.
And so you'll gain some open space, but most of that 1/2 acre is going to be the new facility. Now, I'm a candid guy, so if you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you the truth. But it's a big part of the park board's effort to make sure that the park remains a vital park while we build the new facility. And so, you know, the early conversations are for us to relegate that construction traffic to the back part of the park. So Peachtree softball and baseball, soccer, the people using the existing facility, which is planned to remain open while we build our new facility. And so we are attempting to relegate the construction activity and the construction traffic to the back of the job. And so I'm being nothing more than being honest and candid that, you know, while it'll be, the total build time is 1 year that we're hearing from our contractors that we're beginning to talk to. So there will be an inconvenience for neighbors for a year, but hopefully we'll have a lifetime of benefit with the new facility afterwards.
I wonder if you can look at park usage data to determine what times of day it would be possible to bring your traffic in through the main entrance. I mean, during the school day, for example, there's minimal use of that facility. And I just don't see putting all the burden on one neighborhood for this project. What I wanted to suggest with regard to the open space, Drew, and maybe you can carry the ball to your group on this one, is that it would be lovely, and I think the community would really enjoy having a green roof on this facility. It's kind of where we're going as far as humanity's future, that as we need to build and pave, we also need to find new ways to keep nature in our lives. And I don't know what added expense that would bring to the project, but as a resident of Crozet, if I can help you in any way to search out new sources of revenue, grants perhaps, to do that, I think it would be a really nice addition to the community and possibly an amenity to the schools and to the park.
I will share with you that I love your thinking there, and the park board is aligned with that. And so currently, the majority of the roof of the facility is being reserved for solar panels to make this new facility have the least amount of impact on the environment as possible. And so we are thinking along the exact lines.
Well, it's different actually. Solar panels and a green roof are two different things, but that's, not a bad idea. And maybe, as we get down to the nitty gritty, we can find ways to do both. I don't know, but good to know that solar is at least part of the mix.
Thanks, Sandy. I have, I think maybe an Ann too. I saw Jenny's hand first, or we could hear, Kevin, do you have a brief response about the sidewalks?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that currently we do not have improved sidewalks on Hilltop. There is that pedestrian path that is on the south side of Hilltop right now. We have a grant application in for Tabor Street to get the completed sidewalk down along there. And then of course in the future, we do have the projects with Barnes Lumber and the new connection from Hilltop at the northern end there that's going to go east-west through Crozet and connect from Park Ridge all the way to Crozet Square. So those are things that are in the works right now.
Good, thanks, Kevin. There's one question that Kim answered, that the Skate Crozet Memorial will be protected and stay intact. All right, so Jenny, what was you want to go, Jenny?
Yeah, I just had a couple things, and Kevin kind of addressed one of them, and about just accessibility for the western neighborhoods to this area. And I was wondering, Scott, how many parking, you had a rough guess if you don't have exact numbers, it looks like a lot of parking. How many parking spots roughly are you showing?
Let me pull it up real quick for you. I can get it for you in a second. We're meeting right now the parking. We've done a parking study based on what Albemarle County requires. And we are showing, let me get that for you.
Scott, someone also is asking if the parking spots will be paved with asphalt, or could they be a surface that allows for water to percolate down rather than drain off?
That's something we can definitely look into. Right now we're showing 342 parking spaces right now. And the original parking for the park had about 180 to 200 spaces. So it's an increase about 150 spaces.
Okay, thank you for that. And I guess we can look at that as it moves through the process. It just looks like an awful lot. And I think some of what Kevin talked about are goals that we would want to have for a park, regardless of the expansion. And I understand there's some types of activities and some things that go late in the night where people are going to drive and there's this need for parking, but it is really unfortunate that we have this resource in the community and it is not, really that bike friendly or accessible for folks walking from so many neighborhoods. And so I would just add that to that. And then I think two quick things I wanted to mention that I know are not part of, the community meeting and what we're looking at tonight, but as you move forward through the process and you come to Planning Commission, I think it's my understanding that you're working with ACAC or partnering with ACAC is that an appropriate question to ask?
I'm happy to take that answer. And so a lot of misunderstanding in the Crozet community is that, different people are, in charge of the park. And so what I'll share is the Claudius Crozet Park board members we've got a charter, and it's to provide affordable recreation for the residents of Albemarle County. And so we did have a tenant that helped us operate the park for many years, which was the Y. And currently we have a tenant that is helping us operate the park, which is ACAC. And so I will share that the board members are incredibly active in terms of ensuring there's a continued affordable recreation. And that's what is important in terms of who the tenant is today versus yesterday versus tomorrow. We're making no commitments to anyone in terms of who the tenants will be for this new facility.
Okay, and I appreciate that answer, and maybe if, you know, it's not that fair to maybe ask specifically as things can change in the future, but I guess my comments as this moves forward, things that are important to me is exactly what you said, is this is supposed to be an affordable recreation area. And so as a member of the park board, as you are, and as other members, as you move forward with this process, I hope that, you know, whether this is whatever parts the park board takes on by itself or whoever it may partnership, that there are some sort of financial assistance programs for families and individuals that want to participate in this. Because I see things like this and it looks really exciting and it's going to be shiny and new, but I worry there are people in our community who will not be able to access this. And so I hope that whatever partners you work with and whatever creative things you can come up with will create ways in which we can help those continue to be members and enjoy this resource. And then I guess the one other comment I had was that one of the previous partners, the Y, did have a somewhat affordable summer camp that I think was a big resource in the community. And so I would just throw that out there as something else to think about as you move forward, and what that might look like if there's a replacement for that or something like that.
Jenny, I'll share with you that we are all over it as a park board every day. Every meeting that we have is about affordable recreation. And so we set the rates, honestly, and we set the rates with our current tenant as well. And so there was a great affordable summer camp program this summer that was really popular, and we'll continue to set the rates going forward. And as of today, and I think into the future, we're committed that any family that wants to be a member will be a member.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Drew. So yes, I'm gonna address the chat for a little bit. We've got 15 minutes, and I've got Joe, Brian, Matt with their hands up, and a lot of questions in the chat. So I hope we can kind of try to just get through some of these specific questions as that pertains to this application. So yes, all of the chat is part of the public record and the minutes for this meeting. Joe, I think you were next. If you want to go ahead while and maybe I can have some help with the chat questions too.
Yeah, Allie, I'll just share one question. And actually one of my questions I think ties in with some of the things that people have been asking in the chat. So the first is just a comment. I think that this project, it's a very promising one. And I think it could be a really great development for our community. I realize that this is an expansion and it does away with a little bit of green space that is existing in the park. But as somebody who takes my toddler to the park 3 or 4 times a week, that space that is being quote unquote eliminated, that green space, and Drew, you could step in and correct me, it doesn't strike me as part of the park that's used all that much. It's just kind of that spare space between the road and the pond and some of that space. Now one thing we are missing is the tot lot that will go away is my understanding, but there was that expansion of the playground on the east side, which is great. So I think those concerns are all allayed. I think that this larger community center will be a community gathering place and will be a great place for people because of its central location to meet and to see and to gather, both for fitness and extracurricular activities, student groups I can see meeting there. I think it's a really promising project. My only sort of substantive question is one about Hilltop, or about the northern exit there. And I think some of the people in the chat have asked about this. Scott, I think you made a reference to that street being open for larger events, but is the plan to leave that road, the access road on the north side onto Hilltop, is that going to be open all the time for people to enter the facility?
Scott, I'm gonna step on you on that, and so Scott did mention that because that's what has been the historical use for that gate, which is, oh my goodness, I can't believe I don't know the name of the gate, but I should. It's named after Carl, one of our volunteers. But what I will share is the park board is going to be working with staff, and we're going to be working with the recommendations of staff and recommendation of the emergency services. And so I don't want to make any comments or any commitments to any of you tonight on October 14th, 2020, that is going to continue to be gated. Now, there's a lot of vehicular and trail systems that are off that corner of the park. And it is, it is not inconceivable to realize that entrance at some time in the future, I don't know if it's this year, next year, 10 years from now, can and will be a more active area to get into the park than it is today. And so I just want to be careful what we commit to tonight, because I really think this is going to be for county review and for fire and safety review. And as that facility gets larger, that entrance may become important to people that are not in this room. And I'm not trying to lead it. I just don't want to make commitments.
There is an indoor pool in the new building, right, Drew?
There is. And so it's a 8-lane competition pool, which will be fully enclosed, so we don't have to endure the dome going forward. And that is a key component for our swim families and the swim community in Western Albemarle. It's greatly needed.
We have some questions about the school buses safety, also about how you guys are financing the expansion itself. What else is on here? Those are the ones that are popping out to me right now.
All right. As far as the school bus safety, I'm going to leave that to the transportation folks, Albemarle County, in terms of the bus stop. So I'm not a transportation person, and I think they deal with this every day, and I'm sure that they'll come up with a safe solution. As far as financing the facility, it is going to be like all of the improvements we've made at Albemarle, although bigger, I'll admit that. It's going to be like all the other improvements we've made at Claudius Crozet Park over the years. We see it as a public-private partnership, and so there is going to be an ask. Currently, we've had an ask at the county that times are not great right now with the tax situation, with the current pandemic, but times will change, and so this will be paid for through three pillars, if you will. One's going to be private donation. One is going to be through taxpayer money. With any help from Albemarle County. They've made no commitments to this time. And the third will be debt. And the park board and the park has been successful in securing debt and paying off the debt in the past. And we will be so again. But our goal is to keep that debt as small as possible, as you can imagine.
Could you describe the landscaping between the new basketball court and Parkside Village?
I'm going to give that one to Scott. I'm not sure what's on the site plan. Scott, will you take that, bud?
Sure. There is some existing landscaping that's going to remain along that trailway and where the fields are. And we haven't gotten to the point where we've looked at the landscaping as far as planting back and finalizing the plans other than conceptually. But we'll definitely look at that and make considerations to make sure the buffer still remains there. I know that that's a pretty good buffer area between Park Ridge and the park right there. So we'll definitely look to maintain some type of landscape buffer there.
Brian, did you still have some comments?
If I read all of the accompanying documents correctly, there was a question about, how much impervious surface we're going to have and so forth. And I just wanted to clarify, was my understanding correct that of the 22.8 acres, we have roughly 7 acres that are impervious? And if so, I would like to encourage strongly that we find a way to make some of that parking surface so that it could absorb some of the runoff so that it just doesn't become a huge storm sewer issue.
Hey, Brian, I hear you, and I think we're in agreement with you. The one thing I want you to keep in mind, and I think was it Joe brought it up about that area of the park. So when you drive into the park now and you drive around where the new facility is going to be built, a lot of that area is the current asphalt area that connects the front part of the park to the basketball courts, which it's already impervious at this time. And so, I think that, I'm not a fan of storm runoff. And so we have, so I will share that we are going to do what we can. And I think that, while we are adding 150 parking spaces, I think overall, compared to a greenfield site, the amount of impervious surface that we're adding is going to be, somebody will call me on this tomorrow, but pretty much added to the parking of phase 2 of the parking that's already been planned, which is between Park Street and the current parking area. That hill where the Peachtree softball and baseball folks park in every Saturday and when they have their games will end up being a parking area. So it sounds like there's a bunch of impervious surface that is being added, but I don't think it's as much as you think, or the public may think.
While we're talking about the parking lot, can we, somebody had a question about lighting in the parking lot. Will there be big bright lights on this expanded parking lot?
I'll let Scott take that.
Sure. I mean, not at this time. We're not looking at a whole lot of parking, a whole lot of lighting. There will be some lighting, especially around the building and around closer to the entrances. And all that will meet the dark sky requirements from Albemarle County as well. So you won't see much spillover or a whole lot of lighting associated with that parking lot.
The way our ordinance, and it's a great ordinance, the dark skies ordinance is a great one, but the way that it reads now, there won't be any situations like some of the older community, like the Great Value, that parking, that lighting spillover from the really old lighting. That's a part of history in Albemarle County. As lighting gets replaced, it's they're focused on down lighting and dark skies. So it'll be it will not be bright.
Thank you. Let's see. Matt, did your hand go down?
It did. I mean, I think I was going to ask about the lighting in terms of, I mean, I know the lighting project that took place with the baseball field. I wanted to, I mean, I know that's been successful from what I understand, at least from what I've heard. And I reinforce that lighting question that I just got asked. I guess my comments are general ones. Like I really love seeing investment being made into spaces that have been around and are central to the community in a lot of ways. With a kind of a growing concern about like how not only we are improving walkability, decreasing traffic. I really want to see this space not be a place where people come to and then work out or exercise, but like how do we create that spilling out into the community as much as possible? Also, I'm going to reinforce Sandy's kind of comments on infrastructure, accessibility. My kids live up on Jarman's. They don't go to Crozet Park because they're afraid of biking and whatnot. So the more we think about that, and not necessarily having it being routed through what will happen in the lumber yard eventually, but really thinking like a complete streets kind of model. Just throwing that back, I really love seeing this project kind of evolve, and I continue to advocate for more stuff like this.
I think Anne had her hand up, but I was just going to try to look at some more of the chat questions. Somebody was asking about the pond needing attention or maintenance. Is there any improvement there as part of this plan? Maybe Scott can answer that. Also, some concerns about noise from neighbors who were unhappy when the dome went up and had a lot of mechanical noise, if any of this new building might have that kind of impact. Also, some questions about the height. I think someone asked about how tall the new facility is going to be.
So let me start with the pond, because the pond has been an ongoing project that we're actually getting our arms around with Albemarle County Parks and Rec. And so Carl Pomeroy, who is on our Crozet Park board, and sorry, Carl, if I'm not remembering your name, on the back gate is named after him. He has been spearheading the work that needs to be done on the pond. And I believe, Kim will probably type in the comments that I may be wrong, but I believe that work is, we're getting our arms around and will be scheduled in the next year. And so it'll be done before this project takes place. So the next question about the height of the building, I'm happy, I don't have it off the top of my head, but it is the first story I believe is 12 feet. And I think the second story is 10 feet. And it's got a fairly flat roof on it. So it's a 2-story building with a fairly flat roof. And so it's a big building. I'm not going to, deny that. It's a 40,000 square foot building, but it is a full story, probably higher than the existing building that's there now because of the pitched roof and the lower ceilings. In terms of the blower. And so I was at the park on the park board as we tried to wrestle with that blower and shielding the noise of the blower. And what I'm happy to share is, new HVAC systems for new buildings, especially energy efficient buildings, as we're intending to build. They go on the roof and they're no louder than compressors that you have grinding on the outside of most of your neighbors' homes. And so that blower was something special. And, I'm thankful when we sell that dome to another community to put it over their pool someday, and they can have the blower when we send it off.
Nice. Another question is, what is the tentative time frame? What's the goal for breaking ground?
That is a great question. And so we're going to continue through the Albemarle County process, for our, the first pillar in terms of our private donations. I think it's important for our community members to feel like that we're out of the woods with this pandemic. And so that's going to be the first pillar, to get the private donations, to get it kicked off as soon as, we go from now the special use permit to a site plan approval. Once the site plan's approved, we can do the site work and actually construction. And it is the Claudius Crozet Park Board's intention, by the time the site plan's approved, and Scott's telling us, I think next summer timeframe, it is our intention to have the funds, some sort of hopefully public commitment from the county, and then have the debt secured so we can begin construction on that 1-year period to get this facility built. Optimistic, yes, but I haven't been told no yet.
Thanks. We have to move on in a second to our next presentation. And I know I didn't get to everything in the chat, but I did want to say again that the chat is part of the record, and we'll make sure that Scott and Drew and Andy get to all of these. No, the special use permit is not already approved. That's what's happening right now. This is just really the first step in the process. Andy's presentation, we'll try to get that posted that went over that if you weren't here for that part of the meeting. Brian, did you still have another comment? I saw your hand is still up.
I'm good. Sorry, I'll take it down.
No, it's okay. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't ignoring you. If that's okay, I'm gonna encourage everyone to stay tuned in to hear about the water, the Crozet water supply and other improvement projects happening there. And if you have questions or comments or concerns, definitely get in touch with Andy and Scott and the park. And Kim says she'll post all this information on the Crozet Park website as well. And also you can always reach out to me. And if you're not getting emails from me about CCAC meetings and you want to stay connected to these projects, even when you're not within the radius of the people who get the official letters, let me know, because we do have an email list so that you can get all of these notices. All right, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Drew. And I'm gonna turn it over to Bill from the Ravenna Water and Sewer Authority.
Thank you, Allie, and thanks to the committee for letting us talk with you again this year. This will be the third year in a row we've given a report to the CCAC. I do have Dave Tungate also online with us, who's a Crozet resident, and he's our manager of all of our water and wastewater treatment plants and our laboratory. As well, Jennifer Whitaker is online with us, and she manages our engineering, construction, and maintenance programs. So they're here to help me. Let me share my screen. Okay, can everyone see that? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we wanted to give you just a brief update of what's going on in your area as far as drinking water and wastewater that the Ravenna Authority manages. A quick review is that the Ravenna Water and Sewer Authority was formed in the early 1970s by the County of Albemarle and the City of Charlottesville to manage the drinking water supply reservoirs, of which we have 5, the water treatment plants, of which we have now 6, and the wastewater treatment facilities in the county, of which we have 4. So we serve all of the city and all of the urbanized areas, suburbanized areas of the county. Additionally, the county formed the Albemarle County Service Authority. So they are your retail contact for all of you who live in Crozet, and that's who you pay your water and sewer bill to, is the Albemarle County Service Authority. But we sell our water to the Service Authority in the city as well. We take all the wastewater and treat it, and those are our 2 customers. Well, we have a number of facilities in the Crozet area. Let's see. How do I get rid of that? So I'm trying to point. Do you see what I'm pointing to? I got your pictures in the way. Well, this is the Beaver Creek Reservoir, and we have the dam at the lower end, of course. That's the only water supply for the Crozet public water system is the Beaver Creek Reservoir. We have a raw water pump station, or that's untreated drinking water pump station below the dam. We have the blue line here is the pipeline that we pump that raw water over to the Crozet water treatment plant, which is located off of Route 240. And then from that point, we have what we call a finished water pump station or treated water pump station that pumps it into the distribution system, essentially into your house. And we also have the water storage tank at the Buck's Elbow area. And so that helps to provide a consistent pressure in your system. So we do have a number of projects that we've been working on and are working on. And they're all for Crozet. We'll skip on. The one we finished 2 years ago was a new finished water pumping station that's located near the water treatment plant, this red building, and through these pumps that are in the building, we pump the water into your houses of Crozet so that they provide the water pressure along with the Buck's Elbow tank for the Crozet community. So we finished those a couple years ago. We have one of the most advanced drinking water treatment systems in the country. We're proud to say granular activated carbon. And so in these 2 vessels is a dark carbon material. We run all the drinking water through those vessels, and they help to remove many things, including acids that are called disinfection byproducts so that when we disinfect the drinking water to kill all the organisms with the chlorine, it does create acids. And then these filters help us to remove those acids because we want to get those out of the drinking water system. So that was completed over 2 years ago, the new CAC system. So we're real proud of that. And additionally, if you read the paper and you hear about PFAS, per and polyfluorinated alkaline substances is a coming issue in the EPA world of pollutant that's in drinking water. And these carbon filters are the top technical filter to remove PFAS products out of drinking water. So PFAS is in just about everything. They're in clothes, it's in carpets, it's in pizza boxes, it's in McDonald's wrappers, it's in firefighting foam, it's in many, many things. And so what we read is literally in everyone's body. And so then it goes full cycle into the wastewater system and back into the water supply system. So we are very fortunate in our community because we don't have any industries in our drinking water watersheds. And so we have tested for PFAS and basically found none in our drinking water supply. But many parts of the country cannot say that. The Crozet water treatment plant is currently under renovation, and we're going to double the capacity of this plant from 1 million gallons per day to 2 million gallons per day in treatment capacity. So again, we'll draw the water out of the Beaver Creek Reservoir, we pump it up to the plant, and then we treat it to drinking water standards and deliver it through the Service Authority piping to your houses. So that project should finish in the next 6 months, cost over $8.5 million. And that will be a big addition to the community. We had some times this summer where the community was using about 900,000 gallons a day, and our treatment capacity right now is 1 million gallons a day. So you were challenging the treatment capacity. So it's very timely that we're going to double that treatment capacity in the next few months. Another project you have maybe been hearing about, and we've been telling the committee for the last 2 years. This is a picture of the Beaver Creek Reservoir. The dam is here at the far end where Browns Gap Turnpike goes across the top of the dam. The State Department of Conservation and Recreation updated the dam safety standards many years ago. And whereas our spillway, which is the grassy area near the park, that can pass about 15, I lost my pointer, but over by the park, there's a grass spillway, and that can pass about 15 inches of rain per day. But the new standards requires to pass almost 30 inches of rain per day. And so we're having to double the size of the spillway. The picture here in the top right is showing what we call a labyrinth spillway that we plan to build through the center of the existing dam. And so there will be a bridge when we finish in Browns Gap Turnpike across in the middle of the dam. Also, because that spillway the new spillway is going to be in the middle of the dam, that is going to, in part, force us to relocate the existing raw water pump station, which is the blue dot in the bottom left picture. And we're looking at 5 sites on the left, or I guess that's the south side of the reservoir. 4 sites to build the new pump station. And then we will have to build new piping over to the yellow dot, which is the Crozet water treatment plant. So there's been some articles in the Crozet Gazette about this project. We had a meeting a month or so ago with the residents of the Browns Gap Turnpike and heard their concerns about closing Browns Gap Turnpike for 9 to 12 months while we do this project. They asked us to look at building a temporary road that would generally follow the old Browns Gap Turnpike alignment, and even the bridge abutments are still there for the stream at the bottom of the dam. And we're talking with VDOT about that. We do think it's going to be an expensive temporary road, over $1 million, but we're taking a look at the possibilities of putting in the temporary road. So the schedule to do this work is generally from 2024 through 2026 for about 2 years. It's going to cost in the neighborhood of $27 to $30 million to do all this work. Of course, again, all of our funding comes for this project will come from the Albemarle County Service Authority, and thereby from the ratepayers of Albemarle County who are hooked into the drinking water system. Now, the silver lining, we hope we are connected with the federal Natural Resources Conservation Service, and they can provide funding in part for projects like this. And so we're working with them with hopes that we're going to get about 60 to 65% of the project funded through federal funding, which would be a big help to the ratepayers. But there's no guarantee of that at the moment. So we're working with that. There's my pointer. So there's the raw water pump station there. And currently we pump water through this blue line over to the water treatment plant. But with the new spillway that we're trying to show up here, the concrete labyrinth spillway, and that's going to go right through the middle of the dam, we expect. We have to move that pump station. And so we're looking at sites on the 3 peninsulas that extend out into the reservoir on this, I think that's like the south side of the reservoir. So that's going to be a big project for us. Further on the wastewater side, we're about to break ground on what we call a flow equalization tank. And this is over near Route 250. We have an existing wastewater pump station, and we plan to build a concrete tank similar to what's in this picture there. And so the point is, when it rains, rainwater gets into the sewer system, although it's not supposed to, it does. And it can cause the sewer system to have too much water in it. So we're going to take that peak flow during a rainstorm and put it in this tank that's going to be located right here. And then when the flows subside in the pipe, we route the flow back into the pipe and avoid wastewater sanitary sewer overflows like this. Because if we get too much water, it can come out in the manholes. And so maybe you know, but all the wastewater in Crozet is pumped all the way back to the Morse Creek plant, which is over near I-64 on the southeast side of Charlottesville. So all the wastewater comes back through these 4 pump stations, and they convey it back to our major wastewater treatment plant at Morse Creek. So this is what we're talking about. We're going to have a tank up here that's going to hold back some of the flow out of the Crozet area until the rain and the wastewater flows slow down. And so that's about just $5.5 million project that is going to start this month. Later this month, we expect the contractor to be on site, and in a little over a year, we expect to have this tank finished. So that's our report on the Crozet. I did want to have a second here about another project maybe you read about in the newspaper or hear on the news, and that is a major water supply project that we plan to build a pipeline from the South Ravenna Reservoir, which is out near Walmart in 29 North. When you cross over the bridge right here, you can see the Ravenna River, and to that left is the dam and the South Ravenna Reservoir. This is where our South Ravenna water treatment plant is located. So we have a 9-mile pipeline that we plan to build to connect the South Ravenna Reservoir with the new Ragged Mountain Reservoir. So we have already built about a mile of the pipe, this green line here, adjacent to the Birdwood Golf Course. And we're working on obtaining all the easements and permissions to build this entire pipeline. The schedule right now is that we would build it between 2027 and 2033. This would again be supported by the ratepayers of Albemarle and Charlottesville to pay for this $80 million project. And we would be able to pump water from South Ravenna and fill Ragged, and we can also pump it back. We could pump water from Ragged Mountain back to the South Ravenna water treatment plant. So it hooks our two major water treatment plants at South Ravenna and at the Observatory Mountain Water Treatment Plant. They provide most of the water to what we call the urban area, which is all of the city and all of the suburban areas of the county around the city. This does not serve Crozet, but it serves the urban area. But Crozet ratepayers will help pay for this because they have the Albemarle County Service Authority has a unified cost and rate system that it's all one rate, whether you live in Scottsville and we have a water treatment plant in Scottsville, just like we have a water treatment plant in Crozet that serves Crozet. The Albemarle County Service Authority has one rate they charge all of their residents. So everyone's going to get an opportunity to help pay for this project. So it'll come down Woodburn Road, around Rio Road, up to Lambs Road near Albemarle High School, go back behind Greer Elementary School and the Albemarle Complex over to Barracks Road. And then it will come through Coulter's Drive and across the University Foundation property. There's a name for that farm, under the railroad tracks and in between where the tractor company used to be, right next to there, and across under 250. It's already built adjacent to the Birdwood Golf Course and on its way over to Reservoir Road and connects into the Ragged Mountain Reservoir. Also, we don't show it here, but we're going to replace the pipe from the reservoir up to the Observatory water treatment plant. And there'll be a major pumping station right here that's going to pump water from Ragged to Observatory. As well, it will pump water from Ragged back to the South Ravenna Reservoir, which gives us redundancy and resiliency if we would ever have a problem, for example, at the South Ravenna Reservoir or the South Ravenna water treatment plant. We can move water in between the two reservoirs and the two treatment plants to give us flexibility to serve the urban area. So that is my report on what's going on in Crozet and close there too. Dave, Jennifer, or I will be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Bill. I always like hearing about our water supply, and I think it's very, very relevant to how Crozet became a growth area and how and informs a lot of our growth plans. So I have one question.
Okay.
That tank that you show, the new tank on 250, are there any odors associated with a tank like that?
No, it's a sealed tank, and we do have odor control facilities within the pumping station to chemicals that we put in to knock down the odors. Now, we have occasionally heard about odors. One of the pump stations is near the IV gas station, and we've gotten calls, but we've been injecting chemicals in the system up here that reduce the sulfides in the wastewater and minimize, if not eliminate, those odors. So we won't say there's never an odor, but we do our best to make it a very, very few times that you would have any odors.
Thank you.
Okay.
I didn't really clarify this for our previous presentation, but attendees are able to ask questions out loud. If you want to be unmuted, you can raise your hand that way. And again, you can keep using the chat. Somebody asked, if Crozet needs 1 million more gallons a day, does the storage quantity have to increase along with the treatment quantity?
Well, the 1 million gallons a day, you won't need that for a long, long time. That's a 50-year plan. When we upgrade our facilities, it's not for 5 or 10 years, it's for decades. But the storage, we will have to look at that. We have the Buck's Elbow tank now, and we have to balance all the components of the system, the water supply, the water treatment, the water piping and distribution, as well as the storage. So we don't have any plans to add any new tanks at the moment for the Crozet area, but that could be an issue as a growth in Crozet continues to occur.
All right, thanks. Joe, you have a comment?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to echo Allie's comment. It's always a pleasure to see you, Bill. I've always loved seeing you guys on the agenda because you guys just give such an efficient and helpful presentation. And I was going to ask you what your time horizon was, but you just answered that it's a 50-year horizon. I think it's just really helpful for us. I mean, we get so bogged down on even something like a master plan that's only 10 years at a time or a few months at a time. We're looking ahead, and you guys are looking decades out. So it's nice that you guys are on top of this, and it's cool for me to see, even a plan that's relatively come together, and you're saying that's 6, 7, 8 years out. You've already got kind of a timeline for when you're adding stuff. So always nice to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, when we put pipes in the ground, they're intended to be there for 50 to 100 years. So we have to plan accordingly. And we do a lot of planning. We work with the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality. We're working with them right now about withdrawing more water from the Beaver Creek Reservoir because we have to get a permit from them to do that. So, so they're, watch guarding for the environment as well as for the community and making sure we're doing a good job balancing the fish and the bugs below the dam, that we're still putting plenty of water back into the river, as well as providing water for the growth of the community. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions right now. So, thanks again. I appreciate you guys reaching out and always keeping us up to date, and to Dave for joining too. And we'll see you next time.
Okay, thanks, Allie. Thank you all.
Now we just have we can turn to our Crozet master plan and plans for another special meeting to continue what we started. So Andrew, do you have comments?
Yeah, well, I won't lead too much to this discussion. As we've discussed, this has been my last meeting as your staff liaison, and I'll just share that it's been really enjoyable time the past 2 years getting to know and work with you all, and it's an exciting personal and professional opportunity for me. It's bittersweet to be leaving right now in the middle of all this, but I know y'all are in good hands. Rachel Falkenstein's here tonight, and she'll be working with you all moving forward with the CAC's business and the master plan update. So she'll kind of lead this discussion. This upcoming month, we did have some discussion about having an additional special meeting based on the discussion we had last month. And then we also have a conflict for our regular meeting with Veterans Day. So Rachel will kind of work with you all and lead the rest of this discussion.
Thanks, Andrew. So we are regrouping, trying to figure out how to fill Andrew's shoes. But as he said, I'll be continuing on this project, so you'll have some continuity with me, and I'll continue to attend your CAC meetings as well, at least for the time being. So we heard at your last meeting that several of you expressed an interest or concern that there wasn't enough time to cover the topics at our last meeting regarding land use, and so we went and regrouped and heard from Ann as well, Supervisor Malik, and thought we would try to host another meeting about land use to try and wrap up the topic. Two topics we know we've heard from you all that you want to talk more about are the topics of the middle density residential as well as the downtown neighborhoods overlay. So we want to have another meeting, talk through those concepts in a little more detail, share a little bit more how they'll work, some of the mechanics of them. So we plan to cover those topics, but be curious to hear from you all if there are other specific topics you feel need more time so we can help prepare for that. And then also wanted to know just what time of day would you want a special meeting? So your regular meeting next month, you'll have another community meeting, so we won't have time to cover the master plan in much detail during that regular meeting time. So looking at another special meeting for the master plan, and just wanted to hear what time of day you think you would like to have that. The lunch meeting was our best attended meeting so far since we've been virtual. So if you want to try and replicate that, we could try and find a time that works for our schedules, but I'm happy to hear your thoughts on that as well.
I sort of think we should try to keep it. I think the lunch meeting was a success, but I got some feedback that it wasn't great for people with jobs that didn't allow them to. So I think, I don't know, maybe we could do like a voice vote or something right now, just to kind of get a vibe from the committee if you want it to be lunch or dinner time. I personally think maybe we should try to make it evening, especially since the last one was lunch on this topic. But what do you guys think? Only half of us have video on, so I can't. I see nods from the people who have their video on that maybe evening is better. Okay, thumbs up from the people with video on. So I think we should do. Okay, another one. Thank you. I think maybe we should try to find an evening. David gave a wishy-washy. I mean, I liked the lunch too, and it was well attended, but I think most of the attendance was from because of the topic. So I anticipate a lot of participation, for this next special meeting also. So maybe you can send out a poll, or Rachel, or just to, and we're trying to get it in like in October, right? So it's either next week or the week after.
I don't think we'll be able to make October. It'd be more like November.
And so did you guys have a proposal for the November regular meeting date you had in mind? Because I'm not up, I don't know what Ann and Jenny's meeting schedule is, so we're trying to work around that too. I wouldn't know.
Wednesdays and Tuesdays are board and planning commission, so you could try for a different night of the week if you wanted to avoid those.
I'm sorry I misunderstood. I thought we were trying to meet in October for the second land use meeting. So,
yeah, with Andrew leaving, it's just staffing is the challenge for us internally. So I can't make that work for my schedule, but sometime in November, I think we can do.
So perhaps that first Thursday in November might be possible. And I think also, just so everybody knows, there have been lots of questions, wonderful questions provided to staff. And so I think they need the time to be able to develop those answers really well, so we have a better chance to do the homework ahead of time and have a really good, meaningful discussion. So that extra week that we could give them would be useful.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Well, Rachel, I'm just gonna, I think we want it to be evening, and I think it would just be great if you figure out what works for the staff schedule and Ann and Jenny, and if we can do a poll, that's great. And otherwise, just tell us where to be, and we'll be there. When
Sure.
We'll be here, but when.
Okay, I can follow up with an email and a poll on that.
Thanks.
Can I ask one
Go ahead.
question?
Yeah.
So when Ann had communicated about what we heard from the community and other members about having more time, I thought that the response was, we have this meeting that we're having tonight, and then we would schedule another special meeting and figure out how to use those 2 meetings to deal with land use and maybe some more specific land use questions, and then the overlay and I don't know if we covered the missing middle idea. And then obviously this meeting was taken up by other important stuff, so that now it sounds like we're just gonna have one more meeting. So I guess I just wanted to put that out there, that it was my understanding that we would, the community and the CCAC would be given more time around this topic. And I guess kind of to Allie's point, or Ann's point, of giving staff more time, I think the more the more that you can get the community at large and the group ahead of time for us to look through, the better. You know, and maybe not just like a couple days ahead of time. And I know I had a lot of questions, and Rachel was able to answer a few of my questions in a different meeting with the Historic Preservation Committee about the overlay. And so if we could have, I'm still trying to learn more about that. And I think other people in the community still are trying to, they're curious and they're interested and they feel like there's something really positive there, but they still have maybe more details that they were hoping to get about, you know, what that would look like, and particularly the criteria that might allow for more density in places where currently it would just be 3 to 6. So anything you can get us as far ahead of time as you can, and I know that's hard to do, but I think that allows for people to have time to review, and then even just email little questions that we can get out of the way before we get into a full-blown meeting.
Thanks. Joe has his hand up, and I also I know Tom has something to propose to the group, and Brian also emailed me with something he wanted to bring up. So we'll try to squeeze all that in these last few minutes if we can.
Yeah, just Rachel, real quick, one thing substantively for that meeting, I would love to, if we could carve out a little bit of time at that special meeting to talk about the language of the draft of the land use plan. I know it's something we haven't really talked about, but I think that's a really important thing for us to do. And in addition to those bigger conversations about middle density stuff, the actual text of what you guys have drafted, that'd be great to go over that.
Thank you, Joe. I agree. That's part of what we're trying to do, is make sure that our maps and our language are saying the same thing. So I think that is important to see and let us look over ahead of time. Tom, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I sent Allie a series of proposals, resolutions, if you will, and these are in response to the last meeting and to the editorial in the Gazette and the letter in the Gazette. Basically, they're just my views of what we should be doing as far as the response to the land use. So I sent it, I think there's 3 or 4, sent them to Allie. What I'd like to do is for her to send them out to the group, get some feedback, you know, and see what the group thinks. I'd like to see if we can refine them, maybe add, subtract, whatever we have to do, but have some definite steps besides what Joe just brought up about the language, but have some definite steps in place for the next meeting to respond to the last meeting.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I think if the group is interested in working on these, you know, it's sort of it would be like what Tom, I think, is proposing, is sort of a group response to where we're at in the land use updates. So I'll go ahead and send it out, and we can't discuss over email, but I just, if you have individual edits, you can email me back directly, or we can just discuss as a group when we meet again. I want to give Brian a chance to ask. He had a interesting question, I thought, for Anne based on the last meeting also.
Yeah, and I've spoken to Anne, and she was very helpful. And I think what it comes down to is when legislative approval is needed, so that's zoning changes and special use permits, there's a lot of verbal and sometimes written comments that come back from those seeking zoning changes or special use permits that don't necessarily then get enforced when after the approval is given. And so I think what we need to do is to work on some language for a resolution that our own county commission passes that says when anyone is seeking a special use permit or a change in zoning, any comments to the community, written or verbal, are then attached to that approval and the piece of property, so that those commitments to save trees, to whatever, are then enforceable by the county and then the staff as they move forward. Because what is happening now is lots of verbal things are said. People are appeased by those comments. The approval is given by the county board, and then the property is sold or the manager of the company changes. There's no recollection of those things. Then things go crazy. I'm not suggesting that we change any of the laws or any of the rules, except that public comments made when seeking those legislative approvals stick with the approval, so that, and with the piece of property, so that if it's sold, they have to re-seek it if they're not willing to keep up with the commitments that they've made to our public. And I think that this group could work on the language for a proposed resolution and take it to the county commission so that it takes place countywide. And we really hold developers responsible for the things that they tell the citizens when they are seeking these legislative approvals. So that's it in a nutshell.
Good plan.
And I'd be looking forward to some folks that might help me draft such a resolution.
Okay, thanks, Brian. I'm not seeing any hands up right now, but if anybody has, Valerie.
I will help.
I'm curious if Brian has any particular examples that he wants to share. In my experience, I find the staff and the board do an extraordinary job of pinning people down with special use permit conditions and proffers and obligations for development to be in accord with the approved plans and the plans that were submitted as part of the application. So I'd just be curious to know where it's not working, because I find staff to be very, very diligent about it. So, but maybe there are things I haven't heard about.
I'll just throw in a quick response in general, and that is that there are all sorts of statements which are made by people, and not so much perhaps in the last year, but over the many years I've been attending, who say all sorts of grand and wonderful things in the public hearing. And when I occasionally make a comment to them to say, remember, we are going to hold you accountable for those, there's this blanched expression of, oh my God. And also, I think it's impossible nowadays to write down the details that we used to do when there were 30 conditions, because a lot of things for efficiency's sake have been incorporated into, oh, we'll take care of that at site plan stage. And site plan has its own list of checklists and all sorts of things. And I know for those of you in the applicant world that you feel that it goes on for pages and pages and it's a big burden. But I think the concept that has been brought up will be helpful. What I asked Greg Kampner, our county attorney, to work on a couple of years ago would be that the #1 condition that could become part of our boilerplate is when you are making commitments at the public hearing, and that is the basis on which the decision is made, they're real and you need to be held accountable for them. I don't have the magic language, but that is sort of the basis that when things turn out so differently from what people were told, even though it might be legal, it's a very bitter pill. And perhaps the result of this would be a lot better discussion and a lot more reality in the presentation than all these glamorous things that are explained, and then it turns out just to be bluff. So as I said, I don't have an example to pull out right now, but I think more caution on the part of presenters would be an outcome that we could expect from this. Thanks.
Allie, I know we're running out of time, but I agree with Ann, and to answer Valerie's question, I think that staff do a great job capturing stuff when it's a condition. I think some of where I've seen, and I certainly don't want to actually give specific examples, but especially in front of Planning Commission, because we are just you know, an advisory body and we're making a recommendation to the board, sometimes it's little detail type things that get answered, and we feel like these are going to become part of some sort of permanent plan and become part of the record and part of the expectation. And some of them may seem like little tiny details, but to neighboring properties and other folks, they're really, really critical pieces. And so I think sometimes we hear that in a discussion type of thing that might happen in front of the Planning Commission, and that, you know, helps us make a recommendation. And then as it moves through the board, even though that's captured in minutes and things like that, some of those little pieces slip away, and, you know, neighbors who've listened in and commissioners who thought they've heard what was going to move forward and become more of a formal requirement just sort of disappears or doesn't become something that someone's held accountable to. But I agree with you, you know, the conditions and things like that are captured quite well by staff. But I think sometimes, particularly in Planning Commission, with some of the back and forth with an applicant, there could be a suggestion that something could be accomplished or accommodated for, and then when we see the final outcome through the board, that it just slipped away from us. So I think that might be what Brian's getting at and what Anne is in tune with as well. So thank you.
Okay, well, I think we all have some stuff we can work on in both of those ideas, and I would encourage, you know, you to reach out to Tom and Brian individually if you have ideas, and also we'll wait to hear from Rachel about when we meet again, I guess twice, probably in November. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Andrew, and safe travels. And I'll read my closing statement. Details about the CCAC's next regular meeting, like I said, and special meeting will be forthcoming. Opportunities for the public to access and participate in the electronic meetings will be posted at a later date in accordance with Emergency Ordinance number 20-A14 and open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And again, let me know if you're not getting emails about these meetings. Thanks for coming, everybody. See you again soon. Bye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
Bye. Thanks.